Okay, so I welcome everyone to today's session on Bhagavad Gita chapter 7, and the medium would be English today. Let's start with the Bangla charan. Om Agyan Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovishtham Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utpadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavansya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagan Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijan Saitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagan Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानु सुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, श्रील गुरुदेव की जय। All glories to the devotees. Hare Krishna. Okay, so today we are starting with the Bhakti Yoga. So as you might have heard in the previous lectures, chapter 1 to 6 are Karma Yoga, chapter 13 to 18 is Jnana Yoga, and the middle of the middle 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, the cream of Bhagavad Gita. So it's like a sandwich where the bread is on the top, bread is under, the cream of the sandwich, the cream of the Bhagavad Gita is in the middle 6 chapters, the Bhakti Yoga. So we are starting with it. Let me share my screen. Okay. So today's the summary of Bhagavad Gita chapter 7. It's divided between mainly 4 topics. The importance of hearing, Shravanam, right? The energies of Krishna are everywhere. So the acronym that is given is HEAD, head. H for hearing, E for everywhere. The energies of Krishna are everywhere. Then what happens when you accept the supremacy of the Supreme Lord, right? Or when you reject the supremacy of the Supreme Lord? And then who are the people who worship demigods and the result of worshipping demigods? That's how the chapter is divided in four topics. Okay. So in the last shloka of chapter 6, Lord Krishna said, a yogi who always thinks of me in devotion is the best. So a person, a yogi, who is always thinking of Krishna in his mind is the topmost yogi, right? Mad gatentar who's always thinking of Krishna. How he can think of Krishna? He starts with explaining in the next shloka, this chapter 7, shloka 1, chapter 7. Okay. So, okay. So here Shri Krishna reveals how one can engage one's mind in Krishna consciousness, right? In the last shloka, as I mentioned, he says, the topmost yogi is always thinking of me, right? And how that attachment is developed is given in shloka 1 of chapter 7. And he reveals, Shri Bhagavan Vacha Maya Sakta Mana Partha Yoga Yujjam Madashraya Asanchayam Samagram Mam Yatha Gyayasi Tat Shinu. So the important word here in the shloka is Tat Shinu. Shinu means hearing, Shravanam. So of the 9 limbs of Bhakti Yoga, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Archanam, Bandhanam, Padsevanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Adna Nivedanam. Of all these limbs of Bhakti Yoga, Shravanam, hearing, is the most important and the topmost way in which one can engage one's mind in Krishna consciousness, engage one's mind in the Supreme Lord. So hearing. So if you want to test your progress in bhakti, it's very important that you hear, right? If your attachment to hearing is developing, is growing, that means you are progressing in bhakti. If your attachment to hearing of the scriptures, hearing of kathas, hearing about the leelas of the Supreme Lord, hearing about the dham of the Supreme Lord, if your attachment is increasing, that means you are progressing in bhakti. If your attachment to hearing is decreasing, that means your progress is below what it should be. So hearing is the most important, because I mean, if you understand how our objective of the body, objective of the human form of body is to develop love for the Supreme Lord, right? That's the main objective of any human being. That it should be developing this pure love of Godhead. That's how our all engagements should be done. But if you do not know anyone, would you be forget about Krishna, right? If you don't know anyone, how would you love him? If you don't know Krishna, how would you love him? How would you love Krishna? Right? So the most important thing is hearing. Hearing about, unless we develop understanding about Krishna, we will not be able to engage our senses completely in love of the pure love of Godhead. Right? So let's move forward. Okay, Gyan. In shloka number 2, the Lord explains about the Gyan and Vigyan about Krishna. So what is Gyan? Gyan means knowledge. And Vigyan means realized knowledge. I'll repeat. Gyan means knowledge and Vigyan means realized knowledge. So, for example, if at the end of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has attained all the knowledge from that Arjuna now has all the knowledge that Krishna gave him. But he says ultimately that the knowledge that you have given is very good, great. But I'll do what I was doing earlier also. I'll not change my decision. I'll not fight. What would that mean? That means he has got the knowledge, but the knowledge is not realized. Right? To imply this on us, if we take this knowledge, but we do not apply it in our life, this knowledge is not very useful without application. Right? And how would you apply? Therefore, you may understand this in four simple words: A, B, C, D. A, for association of devotees. What do you have to do? You have to practically apply Bhagavad Gita in your life. You have to do 4 things: A, B, C, D. A, for association of devotees. B for book reading. You mean reading the scriptures of the Supreme Lord, right? Reading and hearing. Reading means reading and hearing both. C for chanting, chanting the holy name of Krishna, Krishna Ram. And D for diet. Diet means you only have to take Krishna Prasadam, nothing else. Whatever you eat, you first offer it to Lord. If it cannot be offered it to Lord, you will not eat it. That's the vow you should take. And especially in Chaturmas, what we should do is increase our hearing, increase our reading of the scriptures, increase our chanting, increase our association of devotees. Take only Krishna Prasad. That's the most important vow that you can take is hearing. Right? That is practical application of Bhagavad Gita in your life. Otherwise, it would be dry philosophical knowledge. That's it. Jnana is dry philosophical knowledge without practical application. And Vigyan is the realized knowledge with application. So 4 simple things that you have to do is A, B, C, D. A for association of devotees, B for book reading, C for chanting, D for diet, only taking only Krishna Prasad. That's it. Right. So let's move forward. Shloka number 3. In this, Krishna explains that the realized knowledge is not knowledge is not rare, but the realized knowledge is very, very rare. So if I okay, let's take an example. If we divide the entire souls, all the souls, we can divide it between plants and animals, plants that cannot move and animals which can move, right? Of all the animals, there are so many souls. Of all the animals, human beings are a very, very, very small portion. Of all the human beings, the people, human beings who really follow the dharma are there very less, very less. Chaitanya Charitamrita explains Dharmachari. Hare Krishna, my internet connection has just went off. One second, I'm logging in. Hare Krishna, I'm just connecting once again. Hare Krishna. Okay, I'm back. Let me share my screen again. Okay. So we were at shloka number 3. Here, Krishna is actually explaining how rare the realized knowledge is. So we were at the point where of all the human beings, very few of them really follow the dharma. Chaitanya Charitamrita says, Dharmachari madhye bahut karmanishth, koti karmanishth madhye ek gyani shresht. So of the many people who follow the dharma, very few are very actually karmanishth. Of all the karmanishth, millions of karmanishth people, one becomes a gyani. Koti gyani madhye hai ek janmukta. Of many jnanis, one actually achieves liberation. Koti mukti madhye durlabh ek Krishna bhakt. And of many people who actually achieve liberation, crores, millions of people who actually achieve liberation, out of them only one, very rare, is a pure devotee of the Lord. That's how rare the actual realized knowledge is. Right? Okay. So let's move forward. Next topic. So we have divided this chapter into 4 topics. H for hearing, E for everywhere. So here, from now on, Krishna explains his energies are everywhere in this material world as well as the spiritual world. Right? Bhumirapo nalo vayu khammano buddhirevacha ahankar ityam me bhinna prakriti ashtada. So here Krishna is explaining about his material energies. Apara prakriti, the Maya Shakti, inferior energy of the Lord. What's it made up of? It's made up of 8 elements. Bhumir, Apo, Analo, Vayu, Kham, Mano, Buddhirevacha. Earth, water, fire, air, and ether. Bhumi, Apo, Analo, Vayu, and Kham. Kham means ether. Kham, Mano, and then the subtle elements. These are the gross elements and then subtle elements. Man, Buddhi, and Ahankar. Man is, okay, let me show my screen here. The mind, intelligence, and ego. So these are the 8 elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether. Then mind, intelligence, and ego. So that's the covering of the soul. How a soul is covered? Soul is covered by the subtle body that's made up of mind, intelligence, and false ego, and then by the gross elements: earth, water, air, fire, ether. So this gross body is like very loose, and subtle body is very tight, very strong. It strongly covers the soul. The gross body loses its whenever a person dies, he loses the gross body very easily. But the subtle body, the mind, intelligence, and false ego, they move with him, right? They move with the soul to the next body. Right? Okay, so let's move forward. 5th shloka. Here the Lord explains the superior energy, the para prakriti of the Lord. And that's the Jiva Shakti. Jiva is the superior energy. The material energy is the inferior energy of the Lord. Jiva is actually the Tadastha Shakti on the shore. Tat means shore. So it's on the shore. It can either choose the material energy of the Supreme Lord, or it can choose the spiritual energy of the Supreme Lord. Why are we in this material world? Because we have chosen the material energy, chosen to be in the material energy, to lord over the material energy. That's why we are here. If we would have chosen the superior energy of the Supreme Lord, the spiritual energy, we would have been with the Lord somewhere in the spiritual world. But it's our bad luck. We have chosen this Dukhalaya Shashvatam, the world full of miseries, and that's our choice. That's why we are here. Right? Then Krishna explains in the next shloka that he is the creator as well as the destroyer. Right? And the next, in the 7th shloka, he says he is the maintainer also and the supreme personality. There's no truth greater than him. So we should have an understanding, or try to learn the important shlokas. Shloka number 7 is one of them. Let's chant together. Mata partaram nanyat kinchidaschi dhananjaya mai sarvam idam protam sutre mani gana eva. So here the Lord explains that there's no truth greater than him, and he maintains this material world like as pearls are strung on a thread. That's how he maintains all the universes, all the material worlds. Right? From shloka number 8 to shloka number 11, the Lord actually explains. Okay, before that, let's see how the Lord actually maintains this material world and how the Lord creates this material world and then maintains it. Right? Let me go to slide number. Okay. Okay. So the Lord in Bhagavad Gita says he is the creator and the destroyer of the material world. Right? And Srimad Bhagavatam in detail explains how he does that. Right? So I'll take a very small, very brief explanation of how he does that, how Krishna creates this material world. So Krishna, in the form of Karnodakshai Vishnu, he takes the form of Karnodakshai Vishnu and lays in the Karan Sagar. He's also known as Mahavishnu. The Karnodakshai Vishnu is also known as the Mahavishnu. In his breathing process, he creates unlimited material universes. Right? Then he further, from Karnodakshai Vishnu, he takes a further vistar in the form of Garbhodakshai Vishnu and enters each of the material world that he has created, the unlimited material worlds. So, unlimited material worlds and unlimited Garbhodakshai Vishnus. Right? From the navel of Garbhodakshai Vishnu appears a lotus stem, right? And on that lotus stem, Brahma appears, the Lord Brahma. And then Brahma creates the entire one material universe. So, how many Brahmas are there? As many material universes are there. Right? We all of us would have seen Brahmaji on a lotus stem and on a lotus flower. What's that lotus flower? That's the lotus flower from the navel, that begins from the navel of Garbhodakshai Vishnu. And then Garbhodakshai Vishnu takes further form of Kshirodakshai Vishnu and enters each soul along with each soul, he enters each material body, every atom of the universe, which we also call as Paramatma. So in our body, there are two souls. One is Shiro Dakshaya Vishnu and one is our soul. Right? And the Shiro Dakshaya Vishnu, we refer to as Paramatma. Right? Okay, so let's move forward. Shloka number 36. So in the spiritual world, there is no creation and no destruction. And so the spiritual world, it doesn't get created and annihilated again and again. Right? There's only creation, no annihilation. In the material world, it gets created and destroyed, annihilated again and again and again and again. Right? And that's why we take birth, die, birth, die, birth. Like we do that, it's the entire material world is like that. Dukhalayam ashashvatam. Ashashvatam means it's not eternal. Okay. So from shloka number 8, Krishna explains or gives an essence of how great he is. Right? I'll quickly read from Bhagavad Gita, shloka number 8 to 11. He says, O son of Kunti, I am the taste of water, the light of the sun, the moon, the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras. I am the sound in ether, ability, and in man. I am the original fragrance of the earth, and I am the heat in fire. I am the life of all that lives, and I am the penances of all ascetics. O son of Parth, know that I am the original seed of all existences, the intelligence of the intelligent, and the prowess of all powerful men. I am the strength of the strong, devoid of passion and desire. I am sex life, which is not contrary to the religious principles. O Lord of the Bharatas, Arjuna. So from shloka number 8 and 11, he gives a brief description of his greatness. That he is the taste of water, the fire in the sun. He is the source of the light in the moon, right? He is the power. That's how he explains. Okay, his greatness. So from here, from shloka number 14, shloka number 12, he says all of these energies that I've just explained, they are within the material nature, within the three modes of the material nature. But I am aloof from the three modes of material nature. I do not fall within this material energy. Actually, I am the controller of the material energy. The three modes are controlled by Krishna. Krishna doesn't get controlled by the three modes of material nature. That's what he explains in shloka number 12. So now we see Krishna is great, that he is the Supreme Lord. This understanding should lead us to surrender into Krishna, right? Now, Krishna explains why some people actually do not seek the shelter of Krishna and why some people actually do seek shelter of Krishna, and what is the result of taking the shelter of Krishna or not taking the shelter of Krishna, right? So from this comes our third topic, accept or reject. The result of accepting the supremacy of Krishna, the supremacy of the Supreme Lord, and the result of rejecting the supremacy of the Supreme Lord. So in shloka number 13, the Lord explains why do people do not understand me. He says they are deluded by the three modes of material nature, Satogun, Rajogun, and Tamogun. And that's why they are not able. What do they get? Mohitam na janati. They get deluded by the three modes of material nature. That's why they're not able to surrender into Krishna. Then he explains that it's very difficult to cross this material world. Very important shloka. We all should learn it. Try to learn it. Shloka number 14. You may note these important shlokas, which we should by heart actually. Right. So we'll read it together. Devi eshi gunmayi mama maya drutya mama eva hi prapadyante maya mitam tarantite. So here Krishna explains it's very difficult to cross the three modes of material nature. This Devi eshi gunmayi mama maya drutya, that this energy of me, mama maya, this material energy of me is very difficult to cross. Drutya is very difficult to cross. But who crosses it very easily? Mama eva hi prapadyante. But who surrenders unto Krishna, they cross it very easily. Who can cross it easily? Who surrenders into Krishna, no one else. Mama eva hi prapadyante. Mama eva hi prapadyante means only me. Who surrenders unto only me. Only those people can cross the material world who surrender unto only me. No one. And they very easily cross it. Maya mitam taranti, they very easily cross it. Who crosses it? A person, a devotee who surrenders unto me, only me. Right? So now we have learned that to cross this material world, what do we have to do? We have to surrender unto Krishna. Now Krishna explains 4 types of people who actually do not surrender unto Krishna. And then he explains 4 types of people who surrender unto Krishna. So 4 types of people who do not actually surrender to Krishna. Namam dushkrit no muda prapadyante naradhama maya parit jnana asuram bhavamashitaha. So these 4 types of dushkritanas who do not surrender into Krishna. The first type is muda. Muda means fools. Fools do not surrender into Krishna. The next type is the lowest of men. Prapadyante naradhama. The lowest of men do not surrender into Krishna. Maya parit jnana, whose knowledge is covered by Maya, they do not surrender into Krishna. Asuram bhavam ashrita, they have taken the shelter of the Asuric bhava. Demoniac tendencies, people with demoniac tendencies do not surrender into Krishna. So these 4 types of people do not surrender unto him. Now he explains 4 types of people who actually do surrender to Krishna. Very important shloka, we should learn it. You may note this. Shloka number 16 in 7th chapter. Chaturvidha bhajante mam janasu kritno arjuna artho jigyasu artharthi jnani cha bharatrishabha. So 4 types of people who surrender unto Krishna. Artho means distressed, dukhi. Dukhi generally surrender to Krishna. If we take our example, when we are feeling lowly, there's some distress in our life, what we do? We look into some higher power, right? And intelligent people, when they are even distressed, what do? They don't go to demigods. Who they go to? They go to the Supreme Lord, Krishna. One is Artho, distressed. Then Jigyasu, who want to know, who have a Jigyasa, inquiry, tendency to inquire about the Supreme Lord. Then Artharthi, who want to do business with Krishna. That I'll do this, please give me this. Please give me a big house, a good family. Please give me a son, a good wife. What do they do? They do business with Krishna. And then Jnani, knowledgeable. So who are Jnanis? Jnanis means a person who has got to that point that he understands that this material world is not the right place to be in. But he has not taken the shelter of the personal form of the Supreme Lord. He's taken the shelter of impersonal form of the Supreme Lord. That's a Jnani. So the four types of people who actually come to Krishna consciousness, they are not pure devotees. Mind you, all of these, they are not pure devotees. They have come to the Supreme Lord with a purpose. A distressed person comes to the Supreme Lord to remove the distress. Some people need wealth. That's why they come. Some people have queries or questions about the Supreme Lord. So that's why they come to Krishna consciousness. After getting association with pure devotees, these poor people do become Krishna conscious, can become pure devotees. But as of now, when they are coming into Krishna consciousness, they are not pure devotees. Right? Now Krishna explains of all these four types of people who come to surrender unto Krishna, Artho, Artharthi, Jnani, and Jigyasu. Jnanis are the best. Why are Jnanis the best of the four Sukritanas? Because they have taken to that point of life, they have the understanding that this material world is not the right place to be in. That point they have understood. They haven't surrendered unto the personal form of the Supreme Lord, but at least they have surrendered unto this impersonal form. So, or the other three, Artho, Artharthi, and Jigyasu, the distressed, the inquisitive, and the businessman. They have some they come for something material to Krishna, but the Jnani doesn't come for something material. He comes to Krishna consciousness or surrenders to unto Krishna not for something material, but for a higher purpose. Right? And what he wants liberation. Right? Although this is also not pure devotion. Right? But then he says, although Jnanis are the dearmost to him, but he loves everyone. All of them are magnanimous, udar in giving me love. But Jnani, whose knowledge on me is exceedingly dear to me. Right? Okay, so let's move forward. Okay. Now, Krishna explains a Jnani Bhakt, ultimately all the three types would become a Jnani and then become a Bhakta. A Jnani gets an understanding that he ultimately has to go to the Supreme Lord, back home, back to Godhead. But how long does a Jnani take? How long would it take to a Jnani to become a Bhakta? It's a very long process. Krishna explains in the next verse. We should by heart this shloka. Bahunam janmanamante jnanavan mam prapadyate vasudevam sarvam miti sa mahatma sudurlabha. So it's the rarity of a pure devotee. A Jnani is not a pure devotee. He may become a pure devotee, but how much time will it take? It will take Bahunam Janmanam Ante. He'll take one birth, the next birth, he'll acquire some knowledge. Bahunam janmanamante jnanavan mam prapadyate. Ultimately, then he surrenders unto Krishna. Vasudevam sarvamati. That Vasudev, Lord Krishna, is the supreme Lord. Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha. It's very, very rare to find. That's how a pure devotee is very, very rare to find. Very difficult to find. So now, if worshipping Krishna makes Sakam Bhaktas successful in this way, what happens if they worship the Devatas or demigods? So from now on, Krishna explained people who come to Krishna consciousness. Then he explains about people and the results, people who worship the demigods and the results of worshipping the demigods. That's our fourth topic for the day. Demigods. Shloka number 20 to 30. Shloka number 20, Lord says, who does a demigod worship? Why do people worship demigods? Lord Krishna explains, whose hearts are covered by kama, desires, lust. People whose hearts, kamastai-star hritagyanam. The knowledge is covered by, his knowledge is covered by lust, by desires. They worship, they go to demigods. But in the next shloka, next shloka number 21 and 22, Krishna explains that people who want to worship the demigods, I give the faith to worship the demigods. And the results that they get from worshipping demigods, I am the ultimate giver of those results. So ultimately, how does Indra give rain? Because the power of giving rain to Indra is given by the Supreme Lord. How does sun give heat and light? The power is given by the Supreme Lord. How does any demigod has the power to give you anything you want, to fulfill your desire? That power is given to him by the Supreme Lord. So in this shloka number 22, Krishna explains, I am the ultimate giver of all the results to the demigods. And then in next shloka, he explains that the results that the demigods can give, they are ultimately perishable. They are not permanent results. They cannot give you liberation. They can only give you material benefits, material desire. They can fulfill your material desires, but they can not give you the ultimate permanent benefit of this human life. Antavattu phalam tesham tad bhavanti alpamedhasham. So the phal they give, the results that demigods can give is antavat, temporary, they're perishable. Ultimately, they come to an end. They can give you a son, but only for this life. You'll get it only for this life. Ultimately, you'll have to take birth, and they can give you money. They can give you anything you want, but they cannot give you liberation. Because demigods, ultimately, they also have to go through the process of janam, mrityu, jara, vyadi, birth, death, old age, and disease. They also go through that process. Demigods. Ultimately, there's a death for Brahma also. At the end of this universe, Brahma will also have to die. So if even the demigods are perishable, how can they give you results that are permanent? They can only give you temporary results. And who worships them? Alpamedhasham. Alpamedhasham means people with less intelligence. Tad bhavanti alpamedhasham. Alpamedha. You may have heard the word Alpa Buddhi or Alpa Medasha means less intelligent people worship demigods. They're not very intelligent. People who worship demigods are not very intelligent. So in the next verse, next shloka, Krishna explains people who actually worship his impersonal form. People who worship demigods are less intelligent, but people who worship his impersonal form, they are unintelligent, even lesser than the demigod worshippers, worse than the demigod worshippers. What does Krishna call demigod worshippers? Alpa Medisham, less intelligent. What does he call impersonalist? People who worship his impersonal form? Abuddhaya, unintelligent. They're not intelligent at all. Then in next shloka, Krishna explains why do people worship demigods, or why do people worship his impersonal form. He explains he reserves the right of not revealing himself to anyone or anyone and everyone. Naham prakasha sarvasya yoga maya samavrita mudo ayam na bijanati loko mam ajam avyayam. I'm not manifest to everyone always like the sun. I'm covered by my internal potency. So he says Krishna gets covered. Therefore, the foolish people do not know that I am unborn and infallible. Krishna as the Supreme Lord, as in his personal form, was in front of Arjuna as well as Shishupal, the Pandavas and the Kauravas, both. He was in front of everyone. But Pandavas could see, Bhishma Pitama could see, his devotees could see that the Supreme Lord is sitting. But the demonic people with demonic tendencies, they could not see the Supreme Lord. Why? Because he is covered by his internal potency. He gets covered by his internal potency to people with demonic tendencies, not to devotees. To demons he is covered. To devotees he is never covered. Then in next shloka, Krishna explains why do people fall into this material world? Delusion of the jivas. Very important shloka. Ichha dvesha samuthena dvandva mohena bharata sarva bhutani sammoham sarge anti parantapa. So there's a story in Bible. Adam and Eve were in the Eden Gardens, and the Supreme Lord at Eden Gardens means the spiritual world. Adam and Eve both were in the spiritual world. The Supreme Lord told them, you can enjoy all the fruits in this material world, but there's this one tree. They can enjoy this spiritual world entirely, but don't eat this apple from this one tree. Right? The story is explained in the Bible. Then a serpent actually comes from that tree and hisses in the ear of Adam. He says, "The Lord is jealous of you. If he doesn't want you to eat the apple because he is jealous of you. If you eat this apple, you'll become the Supreme Lord." What happens next? Adam and Eve both eat that apple. And three things happen. As soon as they eat this apple, three things happen. From Eden Gardens, first they realize they are naked, both Adam and Eve. Next thing they realize, they fall down into the material world. And then duality arose. First thing they realize is they both are naked. Next, duality arose. Heat, cold. As of now, everything was good. Now, good and bad duality arose. Good, balance. Good, bad. Knowledge, ignorance. Otherwise, they're full of knowledge, full of bliss. And the third thing that happens is Sarge Anti Parantapa. They fall down from Eden Gardens to this material world. This whole story is explained in Bhagavad Gita by Lord Krishna in just one shloka. Ichha dvesha samuttena dvandva mohena bharata sarva bhutani sammoham sarge anti parantapa. Ichha. What? Ichha to eat that apple. Eat that apple means enjoy this material world. Dvesh. Why do you are the only Lord? I also want to become the Lord. The Lord says, no, that's not your position. Please come, we will enjoy it together. He says, no, I want to become the Lord. Dvesh, jealousy with the Supreme Lord. We want to become Lord ourselves. We want to Lord over this material world. So to Ichha Dvesh, Samuthena Dvandva, duality arose. Dvandva Mohena Bharata. And that causes illusion. Mohena. Sarva Bhutani Sammoham Sarge Anti Parantapa. Then Sarge Anti Parantapa, you means it's fall down. Sarge Anti means come down, fall down into this material world. Next shloka, Krishna explains who can do determined bhakti, who can come to devotion. People who do not do papas, vikarmas. Yesham to antagatam papam. Jnanam punya karmanam. So people who do punya karmas, good people with good heart, punya karmis. And this punya karmis is not a punya karma. It's actually bhakti unmukhi karma, bhakti unmukhi punya karma. Punya karmas which rise ultimately into the devotion of the Supreme Lord. Or punya karmas like hearing, you are going and some devotee is explaining Bhagavad Gita to some people and you just said, it's not a punya karma, it's a bhakti unmukhi punya karma. Then Lord Krishna explained a third type of devotee, jnani devotees, who are moksha-kami devotees, who desire liberation from the Supreme Lord. Moksha-kami. People who desire liberation. They're moksha-kami devotees. But they are also not pure devotees because Bhakti Samrit Sindhu explains moksha laguta krita. One of the 6 characteristics of pure devotion is liberation seems very small to you. Moksha laguta krita. Moksha becomes very small to you. Pure devotion means you only want to serve the Lord without desiring anything other than to please the Supreme Lord. That is the only pure devotion. You do not even want liberation. Right? And then Krishna explains people who can understand me even at the time of death. People who know me as Adibhut, that is the governing principle of the material manifestation. He is the Sarva Karan Karanam. He is the source of everything who doesn't have a source. Ishvara Paramaha Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Adi Govindam Sarva Karan Karanam. He is the original source of everything, but he doesn't have a source. Adi Deva, people who understand that he is the Adi Deva, that is the controller of demigods. Demigods, he is not controlled by demigods, or he is one of the demigods. People who understand that he is actually the controller of all the demigods. The demigods are the servants of Krishna. People who understand that. Adi Yagya, people who understand that he is the Lord of all the sacrifices. Bhokta Ram Yagya Tapasam Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. That he is the Bhokta of all the sacrifices. And they are, who are always in full consciousness of me, can understand me even at the time of death. And what happens when you understand him, when you remember him at the time of death? He says, Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram yah prayati samadbhavam na asti atra sanchaya. That people who understand me even at the time of death, who remember me at the time of death, Antakale cha mameva, who are remembering only me at the time of death. Mameva smaran muktva kalevaram, who are remembering while muktva kalevaram, while relieving this soul from this body, while leaving the soul from this body, they ultimately come back to me, and there's no doubt in it. Hare Krishna. So we'll I'll just take we'll end the class here and take questions. I'll just give a quick revision. The 4 topics that we learned today are hearing. The most important limb of devotion is Shravanam, hearing. Then Krishna is everywhere. His energies are everywhere in this material world. There's no area where his energy is not there. People who accept or reject the supremacy of the Supreme Lord, and what is the result of accepting or rejecting? And people who worship the demigods, and the result of worshipping the demigods. So these were the 4 topics that we covered today. Hare Krishna. So I'll stop sharing and we can take a few questions if anyone has. Hare Krishna. If anyone has any questions, we can take it. No questions? Okay, so we'll find
9 limbs of bhakti, na? उधर एक बार दोबारा दोहरा देंगे कौन से होते हैं?
9 limbs: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam.
In English, वो सभी समझ में नहीं आएगा.
I'll explain one by one. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Archanam, Vandanam, Pad Sevanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atmanivedanam. So Shravanam means hearing. Shravanam. Then Kirtanam means glorifying the Supreme Lord. Smaranam, remembering the Supreme Lord. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. Archanam means worshipping the deities of the Supreme Lord. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Archanam, Vandanam. Vandanam means reciting bhajans for the Supreme Lord. Reciting or singing for the Supreme Lord. Then Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Archanam, Vandanam, Pad Sevanam, worshipping the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. Dasyam means worshipping the devotee as a servant. Sakhyam, worshipping the devotee as his friend. Atmanivedanam means worshipping the devotee, worshipping Lord Krishna with all the means that you have. Completely surrendering unto Krishna. So these are the 9 limbs of
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other question? No questions, so we'll wind up this class. Thank you. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यः च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण।
हरे कृष्ण।